In Britain, we consider ourselves immune from major natural disasters. Thanks to our geography and geology, we have not had to endure the catastrophes that have caused such suffering and loss around the world. But history warns us that we should not be so complacent. In the summer of 1783, Britain endured a disaster that left thousands dead in its wake. It struck in silence and left the victims with no chance to escape. The tragedy turned ordinary men into heroes, while scientists were confounded by the dreadful scenes they witnessed. What was unfolding before their very eyes was one of the worst natural disasters in British history. This calamity was not caused by floods, nor by storms, nor by fires. Britain, in the summer of 1783, was the victim of a huge volcanic eruption. The eruption itself is well known in the scientific community. It is one of the largest in the past 1,000 years. But incredibly, its terrible aftermath has been forgotten by history. Tonight, Timewatch reveals the forgotten story of the British men and women who fell victim to one of the greatest natural disasters in European history. Sunday, June the 8th, 1783. King George III had just lost the War of Independence with the American colonies. In Scotland, James Watt was refining his steam engine, while in France, the Montgolfier brothers were celebrating their first ever flight of a hot air balloon. In Selborne, Hampshire, the clergyman and naturalist Gilbert White was recording an entry into his journal.
Tulips are faded, honeysuckles still in beauty. My columbines are very beautiful, tied some at the stems with pieces of worsted.
Considered to be the founding father of ecology in Britain, he has kept a record on the progress of his garden for the past 15 years. Little did he know that over 1,000 miles away, something terrible was about to happen. Something that would have a dramatic effect on his life and the lives of his fellow countrymen. In Iceland, a peaceful Sunday morning was about to be shattered. At 9 a.m., one of the largest volcanic eruptions in modern history began. Iceland sits on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where two tectonic plates pull away from one another. This makes it particularly prone to volcanic activity. The most recent eruption Iceland experienced was in 1973, on the island of Heimaey, just off the mainland.
A new vent has now appeared on the northwest side of the long-dormant Helgafell volcano, from which lava could flow directly down onto the town below. Great clouds of debris, hot lava and black ash are being hurled high into the air above the town. High winds are carrying hot ash towards deserted homes, some of which are said to be on fire already.
Sigurgeir Jonsson was 30 at the time of the eruption.
I don't think people realized how serious this was at that time. I was not afraid. I found this rather exciting. This was something new that hadn't happened before, and kind of adventure going on.
Beside the harbour, men demonstrate their determination to preserve their community and their livelihoods. The job of saving from these homes anything that can be saved continues.
Zigagir had to choose whether to leave his home or stay and help.
I decided to stay. We formed a special rescue team there, several of us guys. But sometimes we had to stop, because when there was raining ashes and glowing stones over us, we just took shelter and waited for it to go over. It was very beautiful at times, but that word beautiful, it was quite prohibited to use it, because in the eyes of most people this was not beautiful, it was horrible. In the darkest days of it, it was very hard to be optimistic. When everything was raining down with black ashes, covering the houses, when the lava was going over, burning them down, well, it was very hard to be optimistic. I just thought I might be dreaming. It was just like a dream to see this. Fire everywhere, where there used to be houses and meadows.
In 1973, they had a good understanding of volcanoes. But 200 years earlier, they did not. Laki was the biggest Icelandic volcano in 1,000 years. As millions of tons of molten lava escaped from the bowels of the earth, the terrified people think hell itself has been unleashed.
It began with the earth heaving upwards, with a great screaming and noise of wind from its depths, then splitting asunder, ripping and tearing as if a crazed animal were tearing something apart.
This eyewitness account comes from the local pastor, Jon Steingrimsson, who lived in the shadow of the eruption. His personal diaries provide a